So you may have heard they had like $50,000, $500,000, like $1 million donations through celebrities to some of these schools. And we really don't believe that families should have to, resort to such underhanded tricks. They're illegal to get their kids into college. So we've been taking this journey to make sure we have 10, 15-minute presentations that are really, really simple for everyone to understand on particular topics. Everyone knows that the personal statement is going to be a big part of your application process. But the good news is it's not the biggest part of the application process, but today we will go through it to teach you all how to really, really stand out and make yours stand out. With me, as always, as for today's presentation, we have one of our college admissions leaders in Shehreen Siddiqui. Shehreen is one of our leaders at Khan. She's been a teacher for SHSAT, been one of our college leaders in the college admissions video series that we're launching this winter. And she's also led several workshops for us in the past on similar topics. Shehreen, welcome. And please tell us about your journey into college and what you're looking forward to as far as starting college and anything you want to share about today's topic before we get into the topic itself.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. So I just wanted to let you guys know that sophomores and juniors, this is the perfect time to sort of start thinking about this, because I know that a lot of your peers will wait till the very last moment, but I think this is the perfect time to start thinking about your personal statement, because I actually wrote my personal statement about an event in sophomore year. So believe it or not, these events that you're going through, your experiences are going to be something that you're going to look back on your senior year and think to yourself, wow, that was really outside of my comfort zone or really spontaneous of me to do. I think I want colleges to know that about me. And yeah, I'm going to attend Emory University this January. I'm a freshman, so I literally just completed the high school process. So I'll be here to help you guys with any questions that you have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And we'll get through it. And, so the format of today, I'll go through some of the presentation slides, and I'll pause at the end of each slide to quickly ask Shehreen about her experiences of that. And we have two quick presentations today, and we'll pause in the middle for questions from the audience. So just as a quick reminder, we're here for the personal statement. It's really your chance to get colleges to get to know you beyond your grades. You already have your transcript. You already have your standardized test scores, like your SAT score, ACT score, maybe some APs, hopefully, as you're getting through sophomore and junior year. What about you as the individual? What about your hobbies? Who are your role models? Who inspires you? Why do you want to go to their college? These are all the types of questions that college admissions deans and leaders are looking at, the committees, and it really helps make you unique from other applicants. Too much of our lives, it's always been about fitting into a cookie cutter model of like having to do well in these grades and have these things. But this is really your opportunity to stand out. It helps colleges understand why you want to go there and if you're a proper fit for them. So first question for Shehreen. Were you ever nervous about writing your college statement or college essay before going through the application process yourself in senior year? How long were you thinking about it throughout high school?
So I actually wasn't thinking about it until around the end of junior year, because that's when we had to start thinking about recommendations from teachers. And I was like, I want to get a head start on this. So I wrote my personal statement before senior year, actually. So it was around May or June when I started reflecting, especially because that's when COVID hit. It doesn't have to be the same for you. I think there's just some days where you wake up and you have an epiphany or you feel super motivated. Take advantage of those days and just jot down an idea that you have in your notes app, whether you think it's going to come into fruition or not. Just write down a sentence of what your idea is. And then before you know it, when you're ready to write your personal statement, you'll have this little notes app of little spontaneous moments where you were just thinking to yourself, and you'll have a lot of ideas just from those little moments.
And a quick question, did you have classmates who were worried about it more than you or less than you or from earlier?
So I was actually one of the first of my friends who started thinking about it. I think my friends started working on their personal statement when I was going through the early decision process, which basically just means they were working on it October, November-ish, and I already had it done by then. So it really gives you an advantage because you can apply to a bunch of schools early, and it takes a lot of stress off your regular decision college applications.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Back to the presentation. So the first thing you'll always want to think about when writing your personal statement to all of our students, what's the story that you're trying to tell? Is there a clear purpose or statement early on? And can you build it with relevant details? Just like your English class or a writing class in high school, the story you're telling has to have a point, a beginning, middle, and end. And also, this is really, really important that you are staying truthful the whole time. The college statement or the personal statement isn't an opportunity to make new things up and have a wild imagination. It's really about sharing your story. And you got to make sure sometimes your story fits with that school's culture. So do your research. Schools want to know why you're applying to them, and you should be well researched on any school you're applying to. But that will come through if you're able to refer to a lifelong passion for scientific research, and you happen to discuss some experiences you had at that national laboratory near that school you're applying to. It can start connecting the pieces that you've been doing your research. So from the general, what you can look out for, anything that I missed here, Shehreen, in real life applications for the actual student?
I think you got a pretty good gist of it. My friends and I, we really focused on the parts of our lives that seemed like everyday life to us. For example, one of my friends wrote about his grandma being in Korea, and he wrote it in the format of a recipe a food that his grandma would make for him when he was little. So I thought that was really cool. It's something really personal to you, but it's very different when somebody else reads it from a different perspective, and they get to see that part of you that they don't get to see in your transcript or your grades. They see your heart.
Wow.
In the essays.
What a unique way to tell a story. If the story is already about someone like a maternal nurturing figure, like your grandma, if anyone's here lucky to have a grandma's around and growing up, but to make it into a recipe and to make it into a story, I hope it worked out for your friend. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll come back to some of the next questions we have. So some of the things you want to be wary of: take caution, avoid it. Don't do this at home, kids. Consider avoiding controversial topics. While you may feel passionate about certain topics, the readers of your essay may have a differing point. There are a lot of things in the news, and if you're watching the news, it's usually about really, really polarizing topics. There's one side that really believes strongly about something. There's another side that believes very much against it. And that creates for great ratings on television. But that doesn't translate into the safest choice when writing your personal statement. We're not saying avoid writing it totally, but you want to be a little safer. Avoid listing items like grades and transcript scores in your personal statement. Remember, the college admissions committee already has that information. They already know about your 95 in regular chem, and they know that you may have had something go wrong for a 90 in AP chem, and you're sitting there wondering, how can you explain that 5-point difference off to them? Should I write about it in my personal statement, how I got sick that AP season? No, that essay is not dedicated to explaining something that's off in your transcript, because it's really about you as a person. So leave those things out of the actual personal statement, and avoid anyone else writing your essay. Hopefully this happens less and less now, but we've seen what can happen out there when you get too many experts into the room, when you have too many parents that are really, really hands-on and they're trying to write their essay for you. They will get you caught. Because I've been reading books where they're personal statements and the college admissions committee is reading it, and the students using words like awesome and cool. And Shehreen, when was the last time that you used words like awesome and cool in a statement for teachers?
second grade.
Yeah, so if they read it, they're going to realize that it's your family member or your parents writing it. So you don't want to make that mistake. They read thousands of statements from kids your age. It's important that you do this yourself. Shehreen, what else do you want to add to that?
I think the slide is very informative in the fact that it asks you not to focus on your grades, because the college is already seeing that the point of these supplementary essays and the personal statement is to show that you're someone else besides your grades, because there are so many people who have the same grades as you, but it's only you who live and breathe the way that you do.
And I love this aspect of it because it is an equalizer. In high school, we know those students, those men and women who tend to like to flex their grades a lot and talk about their grades, and like every other sentence is like, yo, I did this, I did that. This is really a chance to even the playing field and get some of the creatives and those who are more well-rounded holistically to stand out, because colleges are looking for well-rounded individuals, not just the transcript scores and stuff like that, no matter what field you're going to. So understanding who you really are. Here he is, the most profitable Hollywood box office star, Dwayne Johnson, wanting to find out about you and if you're good enough for his college. Congratulations to Dwayne Johnson on all his success. So let's think about some of these questions that will come up. The Rock, for anyone who knows him as The Rock. Answering these questions will help streamline and keep you on track while writing your own personal statement. We're going to go through some of these questions, and I'm going to ask Shehreen quickly, hey, was this a question that you had to answer or you had to keep in mind, and how? So let's get started. The know thyself. What's special or unique or distinct about you or your life story? What personal characteristics, integrity, compassion, persistence do you possess that can be supported through a real life example? What aspects of your life, whether personal or family challenges, have shaped you or influenced your goals? And while we are more and more free and happy to speak about some struggles and challenges and hurdles in life, again, that one challenge in life doesn't define everything that we are. So, that we do have to find a balance. But knowing thyself, what was this journey like for you, Shehreen?
When I thought about this personal statement, I was thinking to myself, I don't think there's anything truly unique about me that I can write about and will set me apart from other students. So these questions, even though they seem super generic and super cliche, they're actually the ones that are going to guide you in your essay, because the personal characteristics, if you subtly braid them into your essay by showing that, for me, it was a lot of my energy and my spontaneity that I wanted to highlight in my essay, and it was shown by just like the little details that you put in there. So just make sure to highlight the traits of yourself that your family members or your friends always compliment you on, and make sure that the college admissions people know that about you.
Amazing. So I'm going to ask all of our students to please take a moment and answer these questions into your favorite recording device. If you're watching us on your phone, maybe it's a piece of paper, pen and paper you have, in your room. If you're watching on the computer or iPad, maybe you want to jot these questions down into the phone. I'm going to do the same thing. What's so special and unique about me, about my life story, personal characteristics? So I'm going to type my answers out here. Shehreen, would you mind typing your answers out here as well? And to all the students, you're welcome to share your answers with us in part of the discussion. And if you feel like it's private and it's personal, keep it to yourself. But we do want you to get into the habit of knowing what makes you special. So today's that start. Shehreen, you want to type in? Oh, there you go. You already had it before me. All right. Got it. Got it. Anything else you want to add here, Shehreen, for aspects 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'm actually just typing those out right now.
Cool,
I'll try to keep it short.
Cool. All right, so we'll start with Shehreen's answers. Shehreen, you said you didn't know how to speak English when you started school, which is really common for a lot of kids who are children of immigrants, parents have grown up in different countries, like myself. And you also wrote adaptability and determination. And you were able to realize that through some baking skills. Tell us about it, and then I'll quickly go into mine, and then we'll also read some of the other answers that were here.
Yeah, so I also just put in my third answer right there. So there are all these different parts of yourself that you can write about. All the things that I answered can be put into 3 different types of personal statements because everyone has different facets of themselves. So my first one is talking about my own struggle and how I didn't know how to speak English going into preschool. So I literally had to start from scratch, just like a bunch of you might not have as well. My second one is I've always been really into baking ever since I think I was in 4th grade. So I also just like taking pictures of what I bake. So you can see my progress and my determination, even though I sort of sucked in the beginning, I kept going. And now my maturity in baking shows. And my third one is my parents were both really young parents. They got married right after they got out of college, and they were both jobless at one point in 2008. And it was a growing experience for me because I was watching them grow and struggle through my own eyes, and they sort of brought me into their struggles, which I feel like a lot of people are sheltered from that I wasn't sheltered from. So it's just these different parts of your life that are normal to you, but you can really make them into a poetic essay that is going to impress a lot of colleges.
Amazing experiences that you described. Thank you so much. This can be a very like funny feeling exercise where you have to like give yourself like a compliment and like figure it out. So I started with extroverted, and when it came to personal characteristics, I put energetic and caring from some of the memories that I have. And I thought about, having to travel so much during high school from Eastern Queens all the way to the North Bronx, and how I have to travel an hour and 45 minutes every day. And that really helped me understand like how important time management is. We have Nipa, who's the chief operating officer at Khan's and a leader of the programs here. Persistent, does not accept failure, always gets back up and tries again. So for everyone else, just everyone else have a different, unique story. So we'll keep going. Let's find out a little bit more about the resilience aspect of what colleges look for. Have you had to overcome any unusual obstacles or hardships? So Shehreen just discussed a few. Adapting to a new environment when you're transitioning from home to the school environment as a young child. Also, financial struggles, whether it's through the recession or through COVID or any health-related struggles that you've encountered in your close family. Are there any gaps or discrepancies in your academic record that you should explain? So, when that means, when I use that example before about the 2 grades and those 2 classes, that's one small thing, but sometimes it's something bigger. Maybe you had to take a semester off to recover from knee surgery because you got hurt playing sports for school or whatever. If you have work experience during high school, what have you learned? Leadership or managerial skills? We have a lot of our teammates at Khan's who are in college, but during high school, they were camp counselors, and they taught at summer camps, and they maybe volunteered or interned, at in-person Khan's or at the neighborhood hospital. So these are all ways that, you want to keep your strengths in mind. And self-reliance, similar to, what skills do you possess? Leadership, communicative. Have you held leadership positions in your school? Do you have experiences like community service, time on school team that displays your independence? Do you have a track record for completing a talent outside of your academics, such as martial arts, a musical instrument, or other competition level activity? So everyone here, please take a moment to just type this in for yourselves. I don't want to speed through this part because I want all of us to start thinking about what makes ourselves so special. Put a lot of time in throughout your lives. Now's that time to realize it and celebrate your success. All right, I'm going to keep moving. Just in the interest of time, I do want to go to our first break for questions very soon. Also, career-oriented questions will show up. When did you become interested in this field? When have you learned about it? When you're searching for colleges, most of you, many of you, 80% of you have an idea of what major you're leaning towards. Even if you're undecided, it's important to say, hey, I'm undecided. I'm going to use college to find out what I'm into. I'm deciding between 3 different things: healthcare, marketing, or something in between. And there's always more and more fields out there are going to be interdisciplinary. So you're never going to just learn one thing in college and do that for the rest of your life. You're going to probably learn 2, 3 different skill sets and keep mixing and matching those skill sets throughout your entire life for the various roles that you'll grow into. So what are your career interests after the volunteer work? Do you have any particular interest in your work experience that shaped your decision to pursue a career field? Around goals, #goals. Next steps. Start a Word document, Google Doc, to answer upcoming questions that'll help achieve your best personal statement. So with this is the end of our first part. We would like to open it up for questions from everyone before we go into the actual writing prompts that are asked about on the College Common App. The College Common App. So if you have questions, we have 5 minutes for questions. Please go ahead, and then we're going to switch the screen. So please use the time for your questions. Thank you. Shehreen, you want to lead the question and answer session? And I'll just do the technology aspect. Thanks.
Yes. So I actually just got a private message. Do I still have my college essay? Yes. So I do. What I talked about was I was basically talking about how I was in the opera in 10th grade and I was getting my hair done and I was watching all the girls just getting ready, looking so pretty. And I flashed back to a time when I got typhoid when I was really little and I had to shave my head. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to grow hair for the rest of my life. And so I flashed back to that moment because that was also when I was starting school. So I looked different from everybody. I didn't know how to speak English. And I flashed back to that moment because I was getting my hair done really pretty. And I was just reflecting on how much I've grown from having so little self-confidence and being so insecure to now performing on stage in an opera in front of the whole school. So that's basically what I wrote about. And it doesn't have to be about a struggle. You don't have to feel like nothing unfortunate has ever happened to me, so I'm not going to get into college. It doesn't have to be like that at all. I feel like if that didn't happen to me, I would probably write about one of my club experiences because I was the leader of the choir board and the women's ensemble. So I would probably write about how it felt so good to teach all these girls how to read music and set up a whole a cappella performance together and then perform it in front of the whole school, first of all, and then watch it back in video. It was very rewarding to me. So that's what I would write about if nothing unfortunate had ever happened to me. And what college am I in? I'm going to Emory University. So I actually start in January and I'm going to graduate in 3.5 years. And did I write my college essay in a story? That's actually a really good question because there's so many ways that you can format it and also show your personality through that. It doesn't always have to be a story. Whatever you feel like is unique, and the colleges will, like I said, when my friends wrote it in a recipe, you can write it in an interview sort of style, just as long as you follow all the prompts that they're asking for. You can go crazy creative with this college essay and format it however you'd like.
Terrific questions. I'm so glad to everyone who's reaching out to Shehreen, both privately and publicly, for some of these questions. If please, we encourage everyone to use the public chat box. That way we can all learn from the questions. And big shouts and gratitude to Shehreen for being our co-presenter today and taking us through what she went through very recently. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions before we go into part 2 for today. And we're gonna get a chance to do another round of Q&A for part 2. But before that, Shehreen, you got another question from Rick Singha.
So to go to community college for everything else but your major and then go to another college for your major. That's actually a trick that a lot of students use. So a lot of really bright students, like one of my friends had a 95 GPA and he ended up going to Hofstra, even though he could go to like obviously any of the top colleges because it was a really good financial choice for him. So he's saving money for his undergraduate years and he can be the best at his college and then transfer into a higher tier college. So that's definitely something that you can think about is going for the right financial choice for you so that you're not in complete debt and then spend your money on a really good graduate school. And I also got another question. I'm a freshman in high school. What should I be focusing on more right now to help me out during senior year of college? So I think during freshman year, your grades are so important because so many stories start off with freshman year grades being sort of okay and then an upward trajectory. But I think if you focus on your freshman year, it's a really good year to get your GPA up from the outset because it's going to be harder to get it up later on. So I think you should be focusing on academics, start going to clubs that you think that you can be a leader in if you're in long enough. Like if I started research freshman year and I was able to get internships over the summers at Stony Brook University and NYU, which also really helped me during my college applications. So basically just join clubs that you have an interest in and will come into use and sort of as a flex on your resume later on. Good. You can do internships that early. You can do internships that early. I'm also one of the younger people in my grade, and I got an internship the summer after freshman year. So yeah, I was only 14. You can get internships as early as you want. Just look online. I feel like Google is your best resource, and also go to your guidance counselor's office because they will have so many recommendations for you just for internships. Tell them what you're interested in, business, science, law, literally anything they have for any age in this day and time, like whatever you're interested in, just find the right resources and get involved in what you want to get involved in.
Really impressive questions. I feel, Shehreen, I feel like this audience is really ready to, whether they're at the end of high school or the beginning of high school, they're going to be learning a lot. They're learning a lot from your experiences. And I'm so grateful to have you here with us. So they know how to take advantage. So we're going to move on to part 2 of the personal statement conversation today. And today we're going to, and for part 2, we're going to be looking at what they'll actually be asking you. So you'll have a peek at a lot of the common questions that show up on something called a common application. And based on that, you'll be able to help yourself review. So I've got a little volume on this shift. So should I put the volume up, Farhan? What's she saying from South Park?
I don't think you have to, I don't think there's audio in here.
Got
in
it.
the presentation.
So the Common App gives several prompts, and we have 7 prompts. And the 3 categories that we can bucket them into are questions about you, or maybe questions about the campus and your familiarity with why you really, really love that school. And also some questions that give you a chance to show off more of your creativity type of, gifts and talents, like some of the different ways you can present a story, whether it's through a recipe or a traditional story. Just a quick reminder to be clear and concise. We want to fit the word limit, we want to be to the point, and we want to be able to communicate that one message. So writing extra irrelevantly won't help you. You want to be to the point so they really understand what you're trying to say, and stay on topic throughout your essay. I'm going to go over a few of these, and then I'm going to ask Shehreen about them. So Shehreen, do these look familiar to you from about last year, about 15 months ago?
Oh yeah, they really give you such a wide variety of questions and prompts to choose from that you can think of your idea first and then mold them into these prompts. Like usually when you're writing essays, you try to mold your idea into a prompt, but I would definitely suggest molding the prompt into your idea. You know what I'm saying?
I think I know. I think we know what you're saying. So with that, how about I go through the prompt itself, and you could take us through 30 seconds of what you would consider writing about if you chose that prompt, and you can tell us, I'm probably going to avoid this one. At the end, you can always give us a little indication of what you're leaning towards.
Yeah, speedrun this.
All right, let's do this. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. What's going through your mind, Shehreen? You got 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay, first thing I thought about is how I'm the only Muslim brown girl in my grade. In my whole high school, out of 300 kids, I was the only girl like that. And it was so interesting seeing like all the Asian kids hanging out together and speaking in their own language, and all the Jewish kids, but I didn't really fit into any of that. So I learned their cultures and was able to embrace my own and teach them about my culture as well. That's what I would write about.
So how, after saying all that, how likely are you to choose this as your prompt out of the 7? Because you still have 6 other choices.
I feel like I'm more of a believer of making my own experiences than writing about something that was forced onto me. Like, it wasn't my experience. It wasn't my choice that I was put into the situation. I would definitely write something more about that I did myself, like that I got an internship myself, or I became the leader of these musical.
It sounds like you're not leaning towards this one right now. Mm-hmm. We'll go on to the second one. 30 seconds on the clock. As soon as I start finishing reading the question, like Family Feud, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from that experience? 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay. I had to drop the honors class in math in freshman year because I was struggling so much. And I felt so much shame in myself because all of my smarter peers were in the honors math class. And I was like, does this mean my whole high school life is going to be like this? Am I just going to be in regular classes? But then using that motivation and that anger that I had in myself for not being able to succeed, I was able to do 11 AP courses my whole high school career. So that's what I would write about.
Wow, amazing. So how likely are you going to write about this topic?
This one more so than the first prompt.
More so than the first one. We're going to put 30 seconds back on the clock. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome?
Oh, wow. This is like a controversial one. I feel like if I go into my morals, I wouldn't write about this prompt personally. If I go into my morals, I start sounding like a real politician. So I won't.
So this is something that you realize and you recognize is too controversial for what you want to talk about, write about. Yeah. And if you want to get into that school, you'll save that question for after you get into their college.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So with that said, let's go to the next one. Reflect on something. Number 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you?
Okay, this one is also sort of controversial, but kind of sweet. So I'll just say it. So I had a boyfriend for 2 years. When we first started dating, within the first month, we went to this really expensive restaurant. He took me out. And then when we were about to leave, the couple next to us, they were a middle-aged couple. They paid for our entire bill, the whole $80. They just took it and they were like, here, I'll pay for it. And I feel like ever since that day, I've been so much more giving and so much more attentive to other people because you realize the world isn't just revolving around you. There are so many kind people out there. And if your kindness has such an effect on the rest of the world.
What a nice example to pay that favor forward. Hopefully you've been able to treat some other young friends to their meals, even strangers, if you've ever seen something like that as you got older. Ready for number 5, everyone? Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others.
Oh my God, I have to talk about COVID for this one. So we were all like in our high during junior year. So many of my friends had signed up for the SAT. And then all the SATs were canceled for like the next year, and they couldn't take it until literally when they were applying to colleges. So that's when I started thinking about just doing everything beforehand just in case. Like, there's no harm in doing something early, but if you wait till the last second, you can regret that big time. So that's what I would write about for that one.
Amazing. Just on time for that. So let's go for the next one then. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more?
I actually did write about this one. So one of my supplementary essays for Emory was exactly this question. And a lot of people try to go really deep for these questions. All I said was, my favorite song is Mirror Ball by Taylor Swift because I feel like it encapsulates who I am as a person. And then I started talking about her lyrics and how I really connected to them. And at one point she mentions, I got wasted like all my potential. And that's what I was writing about. So basically, just don't feel like your ideas are too shallow, because if you're really passionate in something, then it will show. If you're talking about a video game, show how passionate you are about it and it will work out for you. That's what I write about.
So it sounds like it was the connection to one of your favorite hobbies or outlets, which is music, that brought you into this question, or what was it about it? If you can just give us 30 more seconds of why this one out of everything, because we've gone through 5 or 6 other really relevant ones, but this is the one you chose. Why was this the winner?
So this is the winner because I think this question is asking something that you find engaging, right? So that is the topic. She is my favorite artist, and her lyrics is what makes me lose track of all time. That's the approach I took on this, which I would be more clear if I had a little bit more time. I feel like I skipped the intro on that one, and I was like, you go. But yeah, so I would make that a little bit more clear, and then I would go into the nitty gritty and sort of pick apart her literature.
Fantastic. No, it's all understandable during the lightning round. So we will complete the final one. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. Oh, really open. It can be it can be one you've written already, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your desire or choosing.
Yeah, that one's basically just asking you to write whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't choose an essay that I wrote in high school because those were pretty prompted. I would write about me hanging out with one of my friends who we came from really humble beginnings. Her father was a janitor, and we would always like dig for worms in her yard. And now this was when we were like 3 or 4, and we've worked so hard since then. Now she's going to Harvard and I'm going to Emory. And it's just, I guess, a little bit of a, wow, we started from there and now we're here type of essay.
Literally, that's amazing. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for lending us your personal accounts, because this is a very personal topic and it can't be easy for everyone to talk about. So, lots of gratitude on behalf of all of our students. I will go through the rest of the presentation in a faster rate so we can leave enough time for the questions from our students at Khan's. Supplemental essays. Some schools will require you to write supplemental essays alongside your personal statement on the Common App. These supplemental essays will be mandatory if a school asks for them. It is recommended that you take the same level of care as you did on your personal statement for the personal statement. So second essay, oh my gosh, we spent all this time on the main one. Now we have another one. How many supplemental essays did you have to write? And did you have to write one for Emory?
Oh my God. All of my supplemental essays were different for each college. So they were all asking different questions, and they all had at least 2. So I think I wrote at least 30 supplemental essays.
What month would you advise sophomores and juniors to start looking up these supplemental essays if they know which colleges they're going to apply to?
I think your personal essay should take place over the summer, and then you should be done with that around the end of August. Then start looking at the supplemental essays in September, because that's when you're going to start making your or revising your college list rather, and then you'll be able to look at the essays that they want, because these essays, you can't just like bang them out in a day. And if you do spend a day on each essay, that's going to take a month at least, right? So you want to start in September so that you can have your early colleges done, and as well as the ones that are due in January.
Thank you so much. Go through a few questions from those applying to Sophie Davis. This is where I went to college. Choose one of your favorite extracurricular activities, employment, or community experiences, and describe why it has been especially meaningful to you. Next up, the Sophie Davis Medical Program is committed to equity, inclusion, and social justice, and values racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and overall cultural diversity as key components to training future physicians. As you reflect on your volunteer work, community service, employment, or other activities, how have you become an agent of social change? And in doing so, how have you taken initiative to learn about and experience cultures different from your own? This is a particular essay that I've had to help other Sophie Davis applicants review every single winter. My essays were about a national health problem that we found to be one of a problem. I wrote about drunk driving and how there should be more regular checkpoints on weekends and holidays to prevent and decrease the rate of drunk driving. And over time, that landed me an interview, and I was able to get into the school. Tips for writing an effective personal statement. The goal: answer the statement prompt, allowing one to identify and verbalize the best version of your true self. Objective 1, stay true to yourself and your story without lying or exaggerating. Said that before. Show your story through examples that you experienced. Show, don't tell. And follow all guidelines around character length and answer the question stated. Anything you want to add to this list, Shehreen?
I think that's perfect. You might also want to think about how you can put as much detail as you can into it without making it too much. Like, you have to find the right balance between being concise and also putting a lot of details in it. And it's different for each person and each essay, so that you sort of need, that's sort of intuitive of you, that nobody is going to tell you.
Thank you. What to do after your first draft? After your first draft, take a break. Now that you had your break, it's time to review your draft with fresh eyes. Look for any grammatical mistakes and anything that doesn't seem coherent. And when we say take a break, that means a few hours. Don't mean like 5-10 minutes, go back and have a snack and come back. And you may need like a good hour or two to just mentally detach from it. Go have lunch for a while, go see a movie, come back. Look for any grammatical mistakes, anything that doesn't seem coherent. That's where you can start. Editing for grammatical mistakes is very important. It helps you to be as clear as possible to your reader. For grammar, within sentence punctuation, tense consistency, keep these items in mind. Sequence, sentence agreement. And after that, you've revised enough times, you're still not satisfied. At this point, once you feel confident, at that point, you can maybe show a teacher, friend, tutor, counselor, mentor, older sibling or cousin. Make sure you trust the person you've asked to review the essay. You're not asking them to write it over for you, but just give it a good review and look out for grammar, tone, if you're answering the question. Shehreen, did you have anyone that you were able to review your essay with at this point? And what would you add to this?
So I actually reviewed it with my 10th grade English teacher, and I didn't choose a teacher who is the absolute best at writing. I chose the teacher who knew me the best and clicked with my personality the best. So she knew the tone I was going for and the kind of message that I wanted to portray. So just make sure you choose an eloquent mentor who knows who you are. That's the important part.
How was their feedback?
Her feedback was so good. She was like, Shehreen, you need to show so much more of your excitement, so much more of your growth. And she basically gave me a bigger picture instead of editing the little grammatical mistakes, because I feel like you can do that yourself and a parent can help you do that as well. So she helped me with the ideas part a lot.
Did she give you some confidence in your writing after reviewing it with her? Because sometimes we need that confidence boost. Did she help out there?
Oh, yeah. She was like, this is a great base idea. I feel like a lot of English teachers are so into giving you constructive criticism that they forget that you produce this writing and you want to have some pride in it as well. So she gave me a lot of confidence in it. She says this is going to do so well, and don't even be scared while you approach these writings, because when you approach a piece of writing with fear or some kind of doubt, it shows in your writing. So make sure you approach these not stressed, but actually trying to enjoy what you're talking about.
Perfect. So in summary, it's never too late to start drafting your personal statement. Start your research, outline, and selection process the summer before 12th grade. Be sure to remain genuine and tell your own story, not what you think the college wants to hear. And on that note, I'm going to pass the baton back to Shehreen. What do you want to add to this before we open it up to the students in the audience?
So I think the thing that you should take away from this is timing is really important. Make sure that you do write down your little ideas, and just everything that you do, remember that it has an effect or an impact on your overall college resume. And make sure when you write that you're trying to write genuinely from your heart. Don't think that you're trying to impress someone, because that kind of pressure is not good for your writing. And I know it's really hard to not think about, but just think to yourself, oh, this is just a draft. No one's going to see it. This is just a draft. No one's going to see it. And then at one point, you're going to be like, wait, this draft is pretty good. And then you work on that, and it's going to get you places.
Shehreen, you've been an invaluable presenter today. I've learned so much about what students have to go through on a first-time basis. I'd like to encourage every one of our audience to join me in thanking Shehreen for her invaluable time.
Thank you guys. This was such an active audience. I love when they ask questions and they're like so into this.
Of course. And now it's the moment for the audience to open up the questions to Shehreen. I know you all have a lot of questions about the personal statement and are probably stressed about that. Let's use the next 5-7 minutes to discuss that. Next week, we will have a financial aid workshop, a similar workshop around financial aid. That'll be FAFSA, CSS, scholarships, grants, and all the ways that we're going to have to figure out how to pay for college. If you enjoyed today's presentation and workshop co-led by Shehreen, we will send out some surveys, some Google forms to just get some feedback on what you liked about it, what you would like to find out more about. And of course, over time, if folks are enjoying us, we'd love to have leave the link for 5-star Google reviews for any of the community workshops that we're looking to do for parents and students. So turning it over to the students, Shehreen, I'll let you lead the first for the last segment of it, and we're here.
So any questions on, I know this was a lot of essay presentation, but really any questions on anything, I'll be happy to answer. What's the difference between community college and other colleges like Harvard? Okay, so that's a really good question. I think the main difference is obviously you're learning the same stuff. Whether you go to community college or Harvard, you're going to learn the same stuff. The only difference is the prestige of going to Harvard. Just like if someone says it to you on the street, you're going to be like, oh, I know what that is. So jobs are really just going to know some colleges more than others. But if you go to community college and you do really well there, if you're like the valedictorian or the top 5% at your community college, I think that shows a lot versus struggling at a really top-notch college and getting caught up in the work and having to, that isn't as helpful as being the top as at a community college. So it's really relative. If you do well at a really high college, then that's obviously the best case scenario. But doing really, really well at a lower end college, not even a lower end, but more affordable college, is just as valuable as just attending a top-notch college and then falling off, sort of, right? Because it's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of work also. I think top colleges give a lot of busy work so that you have to really know how to manage your time. But that's what I would say is the difference or the differences.
Great question. I also want to bring to everyone's attention that traditionally community colleges are seen as less than, but there are a lot of fantastic ones and good reasons why people need to go to some. And traditionally, Harvard's seen as the greatest college in the planet. However, in between, there's about more than like 3,000 colleges in the United States, dozens in New York City, maybe hundreds in New York State. So I want us to start thinking about all those colleges in the middle. We're not, it's not too likely that the vast majority of us are going to end up at Harvard, and it's very unlikely that the vast majority of us in this classroom are going to end up in the community college either. For most of us, it's going to be somewhere in between. So it's really, it's really important that we start thinking about what's likely for us, because either way, it's unlikely that we're going to end up at either. So we got to start thinking about. Shireen, do you want to list out the colleges that you applied to?
Yes, I do.
And then if you had to do it over again, now that you're a college counseling expert at Khan's, what colleges would you add or take away to it? So before Khan's and now after being enlightened with the rest of the team.
Okay, so this sort of answers Ricardo's question as well. So you have to have a list of reach schools, target schools, and safety schools, which basically just means safety schools. You know that within your GPA and SAT range that you'll probably get into. Your target schools are kind of like you might get into some, you might not get into others. And your reach schools are really schools that you might get into, but you might not. I guess those are the colleges that people refer to as their dream colleges because they're reach. But I think that's the only thing that differentiates a dream college is just that they're sort of out of reach. But it's really important to have those safeties because I knew that I wanted to be a chemistry major or somewhere in that field. So I looked at colleges like Carnegie Mellon, Emory. Vanderbilt is also a really good college, but I didn't look at that one because it's more business. So based on that, like you have to pick and choose. There are a lot of CUNYs like Baruch, and there's a lot of SUNYs like Binghamton that's really good for business. Versus me as a science major, I would go for something like Stony Brook instead, or Sophie Davis instead for the STEM field. So there are a lot of different fields that also matter. If you're into engineering, then I would look into Georgia Tech or RPI. There's so many different schools that you can look into, but really make sure that you have your safeties and targets set. I know it's really tempting to apply to Harvard, Columbia, Yale, but then what are you going to do once you don't get into those and you only have like one other safety to go to?
Also, oftentimes even there are like so many students that get into Columbia, Cornell, or Princeton, and the financial aid package is just not generous enough. So, that's when you need those schools in the middle that are going to pay you a lot of money. Farhan, as Shireen takes these questions on, can you please drop the RSVP link for next week's financial aid one? That way we can get everyone here to start joining us, signing up for next week's financial aid one. And Shireen, you had a question from Syed Ahmed. Thank you.
Okay, when should you take the SAT? This question is really relative, but I'll tell you what I think. So I think at the beginning of sophomore year, I thought to myself, okay, I should start studying for the SAT. I studied for a year. And then at the end of junior year, I signed up for October, November, December. I was like, I don't care. I'll do all three of them, no matter whether I do well in October. So make sure you sign up for more than one at a time, because if you have that momentum going, instead of just signing up for October and then taking it and being like, oh, I want to take it again, then you have to wait until March to take it and you're not practicing every day. So I would say try and take it during your junior year, because senior year, you're going to be too busy with colleges. You don't want to be worrying about the SAT then. So I got a 1550 on my SAT taking it in junior year. I also had friends who took it in sophomore year and they got a 1580. I had friends who take it at the beginning of senior year, and they also got a 1590 70. So like you can take it whenever. It's just whenever you want, whenever you feel like you're not that busy right now and you want to focus your energy on the SAT. I really think earlier is better.
Great question from Syed. So we have the link up for next week's financial aid workshop. And we still have time for just one or two more questions.
Yes, you can retake the SAT, which is the beauty of it, because I don't think anybody finishes the first time they take it. You can take it as many times as you want, but it's not recommended to take it more than 3 times. Also, it's like a 4-hour test. So do you want to sit it through that many times? I would recommend definitely signing up for it once you're in the score range that you're comfortable with, and then don't just sign up for 1 month. Sign up for at least 2 months, so that while you have that momentum, while you're on a roll with it, you can just take it and then be done with it. You don't want to spread it out and have to take it for like 3 years, you know? Does that affect your chances of getting into the college you want to go to? That's a good question. The SAT, I feel like, can only really help you, because if your GPA is not exactly where you want it to be, but you get a really good SAT score, then it shows that you do have that academic drive. But also, if you don't study for your SAT and you don't take it seriously, then it's going to bring you down. So I think the SAT is meant to help you. Take advantage of it, because you can prepare for it as much as you want. Nobody's monitoring you for how much tutoring you're getting or how much practice you're getting. That's literally all your own will. So I think definitely take advantage of it. And the higher tier colleges, not even just the top ones, but even the middle ones like Northwestern, everyone looks at the SAT. I think it's optional now, but it's really good to have it. And a high score can get you places. No, if your first score was bad and your third score was good, you don't have to show them your first score. You can like totally just hide your first score. It's only the score that you want to show them that they will get.
When do you decide that? Do you decide that during the day of the exam, when you take it, before you take it, or do you decide that after you get the scores back?
After you get all your scores, that's when you decide. You decide after you see your scores. So if you get like a 1420 and then you get a 1550 and you're like, I don't want anyone to know about my 1420 ever. Nobody has to know. Just show them your highest score and you'll be fine.
The questions do differ in the SAT in math, particularly. It generally starts off at an easy level, probably between grade 9 and 10. And as the SAT progresses, it's more grades 10 through 12. It's all mostly word problems, but the content and the difficulty level does increase as the math sections go on.
And how many times you take it, nobody sees that. Nobody sees how many times you take the SAT. I also answered that in chat. And if your GPA score is really good, but your SAT score isn't the best, I think colleges definitely look at the GPA a little bit more than the SAT, because the SAT is now it's becoming more optional. But I think just do your best on both of them. They look at the GPA a little bit more, but both of them are equally important.
So I'll give the breakdown for selective colleges. The estimate is your GPA with APs. GPA with AP classes can count for anywhere from 55 to 65% of your grades. Your standardized tests, like your SATs and your APs, can be the second most important thing they look at anywhere from 20 all the way up to 40%. But to your question, your GPA with a strong 4-year track record is what they'll be looking at, usually first and foremost. Your SAT will just be kind of an indicator to see if that matches. If your SAT is way lower, that may set off some red flags like, hey, how come this person, but if your SAT is way higher, that can tell them a different story. If they're usually around the same place for the same candidate, they have, they're formulating their opinions there as well. Also, as far as test optional, be really careful when colleges say test optional. If you're going to pay for college 100%, the 60 grand, 70 grand, then it can be test optional. But if you're even looking for a single dollar of financial aid, like a loan or a grant, they won't consider you without a strong test score. So while the test optional thing has come out more recently or post-COVID, the main students that have only benefited from that are the wealthiest students. Everyone else who gets in had to submit a good standardized test score for a spot at these universities. We have some questions on core classes versus electives. Amina, it all depends on how much that struggled and how much it went up. Because if you had a really low, like if you're starting off at 70, but you're now at 85, you still have some ways to go. If you start off at 75, 80, but now you're at 90, 95, that can really, so it all can, but the fact that it's growing in the right direction, that's the most important thing. You keep improving, and that's what colleges will enjoy seeing. All right. So to everyone, if you scroll up, please fill out the RSVP for the scholarship conversation next week. We will do our best to have a co-presenter similar to Shehreen, whether it's her herself, depending on everyone's schedules. We have a lot to talk about with scholarships, grants, because even after you get into an amazing place like Cornell, Princeton, Columbia, or even Emory or Harvard, Duke, you're still going to have to figure out how to pay for it. So that's still a big part of the conversation that we have next week. Shehreen, any parting words for this group before we reconnect next week at 2:30?
So I trust that you guys will be doing so well. Remember that if your grades are not where they are right now, you always have a chance to raise them. Just try your very, very hardest. Leave it all out on the field. Don't feel like you're ever going to regret anything. So take the chances that you want to do the clubs that you want to do. This is the time where you get to explore. And then in college, it's like grind time. So I trust that you guys will make the right decisions and just work really hard, because I can tell that you guys are all really motivated.
To everyone else, thank you so much for joining our conversation today, and we can't wait to see you next week for the scholarship conversation.
Hi.
Hey there, we had a final co-presenter in my son Ian. So thank you, Ian, for joining our college presentation. I know you're 6 years old.
Hello.
Hi, kids. Hopefully we get to good college soon.
I'm playing Luigi's Mansion right now.
Oh man,